to Let's Talk Leadership Unfiltered. I'm your host, Deborah Mays Jackson. Today is an extra special episode because I'm kicking off my guest lineup by sitting down with someone who has not only spent a lifetime leading others, but is also someone I've had the privilege of watching lead every single day. I couldn't think of a better person to be my very first guest than someone whose perspective on leadership I respect tremendously, and who has literally lived leadership most of his life, and someone I've been fortunate enough to share that journey with. He's an incredible leader, a true partner in every sense, and officially my very first podcast guest. My first interview guest is my husband, Colonel, soon to be retired, George Torrey Jackson Jr. His leadership journey spans nearly 4 decades of distinguished service in the United States Army. In a couple of months, he will retire with the rank of colonel. Beyond his military career, he has dedicated his civilian life to education, serving as a teacher, assistant principal, and transportation director, where he has led schools, developed people, solved complex challenges, and inspired countless students and staff. But what makes today's conversation different is that we're going beyond the title and the resume. We're talking about the lessons that leadership teaches you over a lifetime, the victories, the failures, the difficult decisions, and the principles that never change whether you're leading soldiers, educators, or your own family. So grab your notebooks because I have a feeling you're going to walk away with some interesting and practical leadership wisdom you can use immediately. Let's get into it. So welcome to the mic, Torrey.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So I am going to go right into our discussion. So you spent 38 years serving our country and decades serving students. How do you define leadership today?
Leadership is about being out front, but making sure that people are following you. And they have to follow you based on their understanding of where you're going.
Right.
They might not always like where you're going, but they need to understand why you're going there so they can give their full effort. Leadership is tied to followership as well, because if you don't know as a leader how to follow, you won't know how to communicate with those that are following you. And communication, again, makes all the difference as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you look back over your career, what leadership moment changed you the most?
What leadership moment changed me the most? Probably when I decided to go to officer candidate school.
Okay.
And I say that because I really didn't know what to expect. I knew that it would be challenging, but not really knowing the details of it. And once I got in it, the things that we were challenged with, leading your peers, a group of your peers, which is one of the hardest things to do, that right there challenged me for about 12, 14 months. And it developed my leadership style, and it developed different tenets of my leadership.
And that
style.
was in the military.
Right, military side. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So another question I have for you is, I've asked this question a lot, and I want to know what your answer would be. Did you always want to be a leader, or did leadership choose you?
Well, I think that leadership just came natural for me, and I can think back to elementary school, as far back as that. And my first official title as a leader was a patrol captain. I was captain of the patrol, 6th grade,
Okay.
Powell Elementary School. And being selected for that, having to lead my peers, having to communicate with the sponsor, Mr. Glass, and relaying the information that he put out to those that were a part of the patrol group. I had to learn how to deal with people, difficult people sometimes, telling friends things,
What grade was that?
Sixth grade. Sixth grade. I think, 12 years old, something like that.
Right.
Yeah. But thinking back, I would often be selected to be the group leader, for different projects and classes and stuff. But the first official title was the safety patrol. And I think that looking back now, I was leading before I knew what leadership was.
Right. Had to be. Yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned that far back, because I don't think anybody thinks that they are actually a leader that far back in their, in their childhood. We always think about that's a career or an adult title, but it actually is. It does start back when you're a child. You incorporate some of those leadership skills into those, and that's what you did.
Yep.
And I know you were constantly always leading something, so that's what you do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about leadership in military a little bit. How did the Army shape the leader you became?
Well, I think the Army shaped the leader that I became by putting me in many different situations, having to deal with different people. And it's a constant churn, and it's a constant change. And you often have to make decisions on the fly. You don't really get a lot of time to develop plans when you have to make decisions, but you have to take your experiences and build on them. So when you're faced with another situation, you build from the experiences that you've had prior, and your ability to lead starts to take shape based on your personality, things that you do well. Some people are introverts, some people are extroverts.
Right.
An introvert can be a leader. Sometimes it's a little harder. Extroverts, I think, are a little bit better because you're constantly out there. But the military showed me where my weaknesses and my strengths were, and I was able to build up on my strength. And like the weaknesses, I guess I was able to build my strength to compensate for some of them, or even build those weaknesses up till they became strength.
Gotcha. Yeah. So many people think leadership is about giving orders, and I know military in our conception, we seem to think that that's what military is all about: orders and responses, right? So I've talked about it in one of my previous podcasts, but what did the Army teach you about influence instead of authority?
Okay, well, I would say authority opens the door for your influence. And I say that because when you're put in certain positions, those positions carry a certain amount of authority, right? And once you're in those positions of authority, people respond to them. But then you as a leader determine how much influence you have. I mean, if your subordinates respect you, they'll push harder for you. So that means that you can influence them more if they, I'm not saying that they like you, but they respect you.
Right.
So I think you have to deal with both of those terms, authority and influence, but I say authority opens the door for you to influence. Right.
Absolutely. So if you can, and I know there's a lot of secretiveness and a lot of confidentiality in the military, but if you can, tell us about a difficult leadership decision you had to make as a colonel. Because I know you have had to make a lot of decisions, and I've seen some things weigh on you in the home. So if you can share one, that's fine. If not, just let me know.
I mean, I can share some things. Most of the difficult decisions have come in confidential conversations. Okay. I mean, I can't share, those conversations that I've had with soldiers, but I've had to discipline some soldiers, but through the most difficult ones, on the other side of that, the respect was still there. And actually, I know one soldier in particular, they went on to have, some success in the military. I'm not going to say it's because of that incident, but I think it redirected their career path. So having to have those difficult conversations, courageous conversations, you have to be emotionally intelligent, in dealing with them, because you just can't tear somebody down because they're already in a vulnerable state, because they're in some type of trouble. But you want to make sure that you're looking for a positive outcome.
Right.
Yeah.
Because leadership is about helping people.
It is.
It is not about just having the authority.
It's about the people.
It's about the people.
It's about the people.
And that's what I think a lot of leaders miss, that they are more tied up into the title and being able to tell people what to do, versus understanding that they can develop people.
It's all about
should
that.
be developing people, and you should be able to extend yourself beyond that title. Okay, thank you for that. So we're going to move into your educational leadership journey. So let's talk about your civilian leadership journey.
Okay.
You served as an assistant principal, a principal, and transportation director. Which role challenged you the most, and why?
Well, there are two tracks there.
Okay.
One track would be the assistant principal. It challenged me because that was my first leadership position that I had over a staff.
Right.
But you have a cushion there where you have the principal above you. It takes a lot of the heat rounds.
Right.
And, you get some opportunities to mess up and, come back and get it right. But I would say the most challenging time was my first year as a principal.
I could imagine.
Where everything falls on you. You are held accountable for a lot of things that you're not even responsible for. And that first year, it was tough. It was tough, but I think I was prepared because I had already been a commander in the military, which was similar, but on the school side, teachers and soldiers, they respond differently.
Right.
Soldiers respond because they know that there are rules and regulations, and they can get their time and their money taken from them quickly, so they look at trying to progress, so they stay pretty much in line. Whereas on the civilian side, people, they'll push the envelope.
So what surprised you most about being a principal? I know that was a new role on the civilian side. You've already been a leader in the military, but when you became a principal, what surprised you the most?
Probably how many personal issues people had, outside.
And they share.
Say again?
And they share.
Yeah, they share. And those issues bleed over into the professional. They come to school, and oftentimes the professional issues that you might have to deal with are tied to some personal issue.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's understandable. How do you earn respect from your staff instead of demanding it? And that's a good one for you.
Yeah. I think with me, transparency and being honest with my staff or my soldiers, I don't have to tell them everything I'm thinking, but I don't need to lie to them.
Right.
And I want to keep them as informed as I possibly can. And let them know that I am in it with them. It's not like I'm driving them from some outside location. And my sleeves are rolled up just like theirs. Right. And I'm a human. I make mistakes. I don't know everything. I need to lean on the expertise of the subject matter experts in the room. The position of principal or commander, that's just that. It's a position. It doesn't designate that person as all knowing.
Right.
So you're just the one that gets blamed for everything.
That's it. And that's where the rubber really meets the road with the principal. So how do you hold people accountable while still showing compassion? And one thing I know about you is that you are a compassionate person. You're a social person. You love talking to people, and you love helping people.
Yeah, I do.
So the accountability part probably I would think would be more challenging for you than the compassion, because you show the compassion often. Talk about that with
the accountability piece. You always have to be assertive, but you at the same time need to take into account this is a human being that you're talking to.
Right.
And you have to be emotionally intelligent. You can't let your emotions drive your actions, your conversations. You have to be in control of that. And I meet things head on.
Yeah.
But I don't do it, at a whim. I sit back. One of the things I tell my buddy Tony at work, is timing and technique. There's a right time and a right way to approach people.
Right.
So holding a person accountable is not, always getting them on the spot and, in a crowded room or whatever. You have to know the right time and the right way to approach that person. And that means that you have to know that person.
Right.
So there are a lot of factors there. So I'm constantly doing that. I'm constantly getting to know my staff.
Right.
And I know how to approach them.
Right. And we all want to be approached professionally.
That's right.
So you want to try to approach people the way you want someone to approach you.
That's right.
With professionalism and confidentiality.
Because I'm going to make a mistake
Absolutely.
doing something, and I wouldn't want my boss coming into the building and getting all over me in front of my subordinates.
That's right. Exactly. No. Exactly. What leadership qualities separate good principals from great principals, you think?
I would say communication skills, going back to that timing and technique. You can be brilliant in academics, data and that kind of thing. But if you can't communicate the results to the staff effectively, you're just talking about numbers.
Right.
You can't bring people along if you're not explaining to them where they're going, why they're going,
right,
how soon do they have to get there. You have to be an excellent communicator, and you have to know people.
And everybody don't receive the information the same.
No.
So like you say, if you know the people, you know how to disseminate that communication with them and get the best results back.
Right. It's not perfect.
No, it never will be.
No. But communication, I would think, would be priority.
So if I compared your military leadership to your civilian leadership in education, how is leading soldiers similar to leading staff and teachers? And
well, it's similar because they're people.
Yeah.
and life happens to everybody. I don't care what line of work you're in. But dealing with soldiers is a little different because you don't deal with them very long. And I mean, as a commander, you're usually in that seat for 2 years and you're gone. And the people and the people that are in the unit, they know that you'll be gone in 2 years, and many of them will be there 10 years, 15. Sometimes they stay the whole 20 years or whatever, and they'll wait you out. So that said, you have to always be forthright up front, letting them know, what your vision is. You want to empower those on that team to go toward that vision.
So that's both for military and for teachers, right?
Yes. You always want to, communicate your vision. You want to empower those on the team You want to praise those on the team as you move along.
Right.
And when you praise the team, things start to move. But whatever the outcome is, as the leader, you must own it, good or bad.
So it's similar.
Yeah.
It's totally
it's
similar.
very similar.
Because again, like you said, we're dealing with people.
Mm-hmm.
So the people don't change, just the job title change.
Job titles, yeah.
So which organization, military or education, places a greater demand on your emotional intelligence? And you spoke of emotional intelligence earlier, but which one places a greater demand on your emotional intelligence?
By far the civilian side.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why is that, you think?
Because the military is so, well, it's not so, it's more rigid and structured than the civilian side. Civilians have the luxury of bringing their emotional situations from home to work, and they get dealt with there. Whereas in the military, there's a standard that you want to try to uphold. You want to be a sharp soldier. So things that are happening outside of the soldier realm, you want to keep them out.
Okay.
Because you want to always be perceived as that person that's got it all together.
Okay. So they're reluctant to talk about personal things
Right.
in the military,
Right.
in that circle.
Right.
Where in education we're real open.
Oh yeah, real open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. So how do you motivate people who don't want to be motivated?
Well, those that don't want to be motivated oftentimes get selectively moved on.
Okay. Yeah.
But this is the thing. I try to build a culture in whatever organization that I'm leading to the point where the culture
Right.
will motivate.
Right.
The culture will cull people out, because if you create the right kind of culture, people will either stay or leave.
Right.
And I would say military and civilian, I've had to remove very few people. The culture of the organization has done that. It either transforms them or,
Right.
pushes
So
them on.
what is the hardest lesson leadership has ever taught you? And that's all, from both places, because I know we talked about your colonel position and a hard decision you had to make, but what is the hardest lesson you've learned just being a leader in general?
The hardest lesson to learn is that leadership is not easy. It's not cookie cutter.
That's true.
It's not.
Right.
It's ever changing. The situations are, but you have to be very flexible, and you have to be willing to meet difficult situations head on. One of the tenets of leadership in the military is personal courage. And courage is not the absence of fear,
Right.
but it is being able to act properly in the presence of
fear.
the presence
Right.
of fear.
Right.
So I think that said,
that was a hard list.
yeah, that's the hard lesson. It's not cookie cutter, and it's not easy.
And it's not easy at all. Have you ever had to admit you were wrong? And what happened?
Yeah.
Not to me. I'm just saying in general.
yeah, I have. But honestly, when you admit that you're wrong as a leader to those that are your subordinates, you usually gain more respect from them. They see you as a real person, and they respect the humility of you being able to say, hey, I messed up.
I made a wrong decision.
This was not right. We need to fix this,
Yeah.
But I think that being honest enough to admit that you're wrong, it gains the respect. It has with me.
Right. Gotcha. So you and I have been leaders since we met. When we met, we both were assistant principals and have advanced over these years, I think, quite nicely. Yeah. So how has having a spouse as a leader molded your leadership journey?
Well, I think...
Be careful.
I think that because our leadership styles are different,
very,
those conversations that we've had regarding leadership, it helped me to see a different perspective on situations. It helped me gauge whatever my decision was to something different, and be able to talk about those situations openly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say that, just having that, it's a yin yang effect.
Right.
Yeah.
I have to agree, because I think just having someone to bounce off a day's situation when you get home and say, hey, this happened. This is how I handle it, or it's not handled yet. I have to make a decision tomorrow. What do you think about this? I think that has been definitely beneficial for me as a leader, to have that to bounce off to you. And as you're right, we are very different leaders. I mean, and as I remember when we were both assistant principals at the same time, but we also were both principals at the same time. And I can remember situations where, because you were at a smaller school in a rural area, and I was at a large school in a city, in a big city. So our situations were the same, even though we had different environments.
Yep.
And I also can remember how we would sit at the kitchen table and do our data together, because this was before we had Case 21 and all these other data programs that were calculated for you. When the data came back in the summer, we sat at that kitchen table.
Yep.
And we calculated and did all this work so that we could call our teachers in and start talking to them. And those were some good times for me, because, again, even looking at the data, we had different perspectives about certain data. But when we heard the other person's perspective, your or my perspective, it was like, oh, I didn't think about that. And then we also could talking about how we were going to address the data. What type of strategies we were going to put in place, or interventions we were going to put in place, because before we even saw a teacher, so that we can have that conversation with them. I think it was very beneficial to me to have that in the house.
Yeah, it was, especially, the time, we came into situations that weren't, the best.
Right.
And, we went from, at least, I was at a failing school and went from failing to success in 3 years, and we were solidly there.
Right.
I mean, solidly. And it wasn't just me. I mean, we talked about different ideas, and I would take what we shared back to the school, try to implement some of the things.
Right.
And most of them worked out.
Right.
And even some of the things that we did back then, I've shared with principals now,
Right.
and because kids are the same.
Absolutely.
I mean, situations are different, but, kids' desires are the same. They want what they want.
Right.
And teachers want what they want.
Right.
So, I think being able to discuss those ideas and, the challenges.
Right.
I
want to point out what you just stated too, because us having that relationship in the home and being able to understand the challenges that we had as leaderships in our situations that we were in, we both took on low performing or failing schools. And before we left there, they were successful schools.
Right.
And that was not only from us being the leader. Of course, the staff was 100% the driving force.
Yes.
But I believe that I became more steady and consistent because I could come home and had a partner that understood what I was going through.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we were able to consistently bring those schools out of failing or low performing to successful because we had that stability at home as well.
Yep.
I agree. So, what advice would you give a first year administrator? No matter what administration they're in, just a leadership role.
Be a good listener and turn what you listen to into great communication with your staff, and always be the lead person when it comes to the vision of your organization, because you will be held accountable for that.
Right.
And know that you will be held accountable for a lot of things that you're not directly responsible for.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
What advice would you give someone who's interested in joining the Army? Since you're about to walk out and take your last grand tour in a few months, what advice would you give someone who's interested in joining the Army?
Okay, if they're interested in joining the Army, I would tell them, take the ASVAB first.
Okay.
Take the ASVAB first. Find out what you're good at. Look at all the jobs, whatever, you know.
Because people really don't know there are a plethora of jobs.
Yeah.
In
Over
all
200 jobs
in
in
all
the
of the
Army,
armed forces.
Yeah.
And so ASVAB is going to let them know what they would be best at, right?
Yep, your
Is that what they do?
skills.
Okay. So
Yep.
I think people don't really understand that there are multiple jobs. Every job you can have in civilian life, you can have in the armed forces.
Yep, you can.
Okay. So what legacy do you hope to leave in the Army? I'm going to say the Army because you're getting ready to leave there, but I was going to say both in your civilian life in it. But since you're about to leave the Army, what legacy do you hope you left there?
That I cared about people and that I led with integrity and courage. I want it to be known that I was always looking out for the soldier, always. I have a mantra, lift as I climb. I try to leave the door open. Once I come into a room, I'll hold the door open as long as I can, but if I have to leave, I put a rock in it, to let others come through. And if someone possibly leapfrogs me or has the opportunity to do so, I have enough humility to say, hey, if I can help you, I'll help you, because my blessing will come when it's time.
Right. And I can attest to that. And I really think about all the people that you've worked with, even some of your subordinates that you've worked with in the military who still call you.
Yeah.
Who still visit you, or you go to visit. We went to a wedding out of the country for someone. So that relationship is still there, and that's the legacy. When people that you have led have that high esteem for you, that they want you to be in their personal space.
Yeah,
that says a lot.
Says a lot.
It says a lot,
and I humbly appreciate that, because they don't have to let you in that space.
They could be done with you. Like you said, after those 2 years, they could be done with you, and they choose not to be.
That's right.
So we're going to have a little fun now. We're going to do a rapid fire. And so I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I want you to answer with the first answer that comes to mind. Now, you only have about 5 seconds, so you don't get to sit there and ponder on your answer. Okay?
Okay, so I need to give you one word answer.
First answer.
Okay.
It could be 1 or 2 or 3 words, but it needs to be the first answer, and it needs to be quick.
All right.
Rapid fire means rapid.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Leader you admire the most?
My dad.
Okay. One leadership book everyone should read?
Bible.
Glory. Discipline or motivation?
Both.
One or the other. Discipline or motivation? Or give me one
Discipline.
of them. Okay. Tough conversations or difficult decisions?
Difficult decisions.
Okay. Biggest leadership pet peeve?
Procrastination.
Coffee or energy drink?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
One word that describes great leadership.
Passion.
Okay, very good. That's it. See how quick that was? And it was painless, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I
It
mean,
was
I
painless.
had to juggle a few
But
words around.
those are some good responses.
Okay.
I'm pleased with your responses because you
you
don't
are.
get to think. Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Okay. So you spent a lifetime leading soldiers, students, teachers, administrators, and communities. If this were your final leadership lesson, what would it be?
My final leadership lesson to an aspiring leader.
To the audience.
To the
To our
audience.
audience.
Lead with passion. Lead with integrity.
That's not very important.
I was gonna, the Army has the acronym leadership, loyalty, duty, respect. Yeah. Selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Those are the tenets of leadership. And everything that falls under each one of those letters, you can tailor it to many things.
Right.
So because leadership is not cookie cutter, you need to know who you are, how you lead, and however those letters apply to your leadership style, build on that.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you for coming. I appreciate you being my very, very first guest.
Wouldn't
on
have had it
Let's-
the other way.
Absolutely, me either. So
That's
we're joined at the hip with that one. Okay.
That's right.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Let's Talk Leadership Unfiltered. I hope you've enjoyed this unfiltered conversation with my leader, my husband, Colonel G. Torrey Jackson Jr. If today's conversation inspired you or challenged your thinking, share this episode with another school leader, your administrative team, or an instructional coach. Subscribe, like, and leave a comment or a question. I appreciate your interactions. If you would like to discuss in-person professional development for administrators or teachers, please scan the QR code at the end of this video and complete the contact information. I would love to work with you and build capacity in your leadership team and staff. Leaders, you must invest in yourself. We can discuss your needs and build a personalized, prescriptive plan for success because leadership grows when leaders grow together. Until next time, continue to make dynamic connections. Lead with purpose, lead with courage, lead with integrity. Blessings to you.